If you've never heard of Transference, I honestly wouldn't blame you. Released back in 2018, this psychological horror game completely flew under the radar, and before this playthrough, I almost knew nothing about it. I'd heard it was a short puzzle focused horror game, so I decided to jump in completely blind while going for the 100%. After a short opening cinematic, the game dropped me outside of an old apartment building. The controls are incredibly simple, and after finding a key on the path, I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. It didn't take long before the game threw its first puzzle at me. A strange lock with the miniature piano sat in front of the door. After looking around the room, I found a sheet of music with the hidden answer in plain sight. Playing the notes C, D, and E opened the door and unlocking my first achievement, Into the Rabbit Hole. I actually liked this introduction because it immediately showed me what kind of game Transference was going to be. It didn't hold your hand, it expects you to pay attention. From there, things quickly became strange. The apartment completely shifted around me, and I soon discovered that colored light switches didn't just change the lighting, they changed reality itself. And I realized these different versions of the apartment would become the key to solving almost every puzzle. After making my way into the basement, I found an old brass door knocker. It seemed completely random at first, but carrying it back upstairs revealed its purpose. The apartment's front door was missing its handle, and attaching the knocker restored the entrance and earning me my second achievement. Is there anyone home? With the door finally open, I stepped inside the apartment for the first time, and that's when the real mystery began. I decided to explore the apartment. That turned out to be the right decision because Transference constantly rewards curiosity. Almost every room hides something worth inspecting, whether it's a collectible, an audio recording, or another clue about the family that once lived here. While searching the apartment, I stumbled across one of the strangest objects I'd seen so far. Sitting in the middle of the room was a mysterious machine with an empty socket, and lying nearby was a glowing yellow crystal. The game doesn't tell you what either of them are, but there's only one obvious thing to try. After placing the crystal into the machine, it suddenly powered to life, unlocking the strange machine achievement. At this point, I still had absolutely no idea what I'd activated, but it was obvious that this machine was going to play a much bigger role later on. With that mystery temporarily set aside, I continued exploring and eventually made my way into the kitchen, where the next corrupted room was waiting for me. This was the first puzzle that really showed off Transference's biggest mechanic. By flipping the colored light switches, I could swap between different versions of the apartment. One version contained a working radio, while the other held a corrupted one I needed to repair. After tuning the first radio until the signal became perfectly clear, I switched realities and matched that exact same frequency on the second radio. As soon as both radios lined up, the corruption disappeared, unlocking the radio frequency achievement. I really enjoyed this puzzle because it trusted me to work things out on my own. There were no hints flashing around the screen or objective markers telling me what to do. The game simply gave me the tools and expected me to pay attention. With the kitchen restored, a new path opened up, leading me outside and into the garage, like pretty much every area so far. I took my time searching through everything I could find, and it definitely paid off. Hidden inside one of the filing cabinets, there was an old university photograph of Raymond Hayes. Finding it unlocked behind the curtain achievement. It's a small achievement, but it's another reminder that exploration is just as important as puzzle solving. Every photograph, recording, and document slowly adds another piece to the mystery, making it feel like you're uncovering the story naturally instead of having it explained through cutscenes. After finishing up in the garage, I headed back inside and continued exploring the apartment. By this point, I was checking every drawer and cupboard I came across, not just because I was hunting for collectibles, but because the game had already taught me that almost anything could end up being important later. The next stop was the dining room, where another corrupted puzzle was waiting for me. Sitting on the table was a locked computer, but instead of giving me the password, Transference made me earn it. Scattered around the room were fragments of a snowflake pattern. Once I pieced them together, they revealed the code I needed to unlock the computer. Entering it restored the room and unlocked Snowflake. With the computer restored, I was able to activate a nearby 3D printer, which created a missing letter I needed to unlock Benjamin's bedroom. It was another clever little puzzle because by this point I'd already collected a few letters without even realizing what they were for. Once the letters finally came together, Benjamin's bedroom opened up. Out of every room I'd explored so far, this one felt the most personal. Drawings covered the walls, and it genuinely felt like stepping into a child's bedroom that had simply been frozen in time. While searching through the room, I found another crystal hidden away in one of the drawers. Carrying it back to the strange machine and placing it inside brought the device back to life again, unlocking Synchronized Benjamin. Seeing this achievement's name was interesting because it was the first real hint that these crystals weren't just powering a machine, they were somehow connected to the people who lived here. I still didn't fully understand what was happening, but little by little the game was starting to reveal that this mystery was bigger than the haunted apartment. With Benjamin's room explored and the second crystal placed, I continued searching the apartment for anything that I've missed. By this point, Transference had trained me to slow down. Every room seemed to hide another clue, and I was constantly rewarded for taking a second look. Eventually I found myself back in the music room, where the next puzzle was waiting. At first glance, it just looked like a piano missing one of its light bulbs. After a bit of exploring, I found the missing bulb tucked away in the dining room and returned it to fit into the piano. Above the piano were 6 lights, each corresponding to one of 6 keys. The challenge was figuring out which keys needed to be played to illuminate every light. After a little bit of experimenting, I pressed keys 2, 3, 4 and 6, and the room finally restored itself. With that, the Maestro achievement unlocked. Restoring the music room also opened the way into the living room, and almost immediately the atmosphere shifted again. After following a mysterious figure deep into the apartment, the room suddenly twisted upside down, leaving me completely disorientated. It was probably one of the coolest visuals in the entire game and reminded me that Transference relies far more on psychological horror than cheap jump scares. Once I escaped that surreal sequence, the next puzzle began. This one revolved around an hourglass. After collecting a bottle of sand from Benjamin's room, I filled the hourglass in the living room and flipped it over. That triggered a time sequence where a hidden clock appeared. The clock puzzle itself was surprisingly clever. After setting the clock correctly, the corruption disappeared, unlocking time as relative achievement. Looking back, this was probably one of my favorite puzzles. By now, the apartment was beginning to feel less like a place and more like a collection of broken memories stitched together, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was getting closer to discovering what really happened here. Up until this point, I'd been interacting with every tape recorder, phone call, and radio I came across, and that decision finally paid off. Triggering the last remaining audio recording unlocked Broken Family. This was one of those achievements that had happened naturally if you took your time. With nothing left to collect in this section of the apartment, I returned to the music room where the third crystal was now waiting for me. By this point, I knew exactly where to go. After carrying it back to the strange machine and placing it into the final empty slot, another achievement appeared, synchronizing Raymond. Seeing Raymond's name appear after Benjamin's immediately made me wonder what these crystals represented. The game was clearly building towards something, but it wasn't ready to give away any of its secrets. Before moving forward, I made sure to search the room one last time and found the final video log hidden beside me. Picking it up unlocked the whole story achievement. Collecting every video log was definitely worth the extra effort. None of them felt like pointless collectibles. Instead, they added context to everything I'd experienced, making the final moments of the game much easier to understand. From there, all that was left was to follow the path the game laid out before me. The apartment slowly began falling away behind me as I descended an endless stairs, each loop becoming stranger than the last. It was a simple sequence, but it did a great job building anticipation before the finale. Eventually I found one last crystal inside the bedroom and placed it where it belonged, bringing the experiment to its conclusion. Without spoiling too much, Transference ends exactly the way the rest of the game is designed. It doesn't hand you every answer, instead it leaves you to reflect on everything you've seen, encouraging you to decide for yourself exactly what happened inside the Hayes household. For such a short game, Transference left a surprisingly strong impression on me. The puzzles were clever without becoming frustrating, the atmosphere kept me on edge from the beginning to the end, and the environment storytelling constantly rewarded exploration. If I had one criticism, it would simply be the length. Just as I felt like the game was introducing its more interesting ideas, it was already wrapping up. I honestly think about an hour or two would have allowed the story and mechanics to develop even further. It's one of Ubisoft's most overlooked titles, and I'm glad I finally had the opportunity to experience it while earning the 100% of completion. And with every achievement unlocked, that's another game completed 100%. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys at the next one.